I have a tiny problem. No, it's not the fact that there are tons of animals all over my island, as you can see. It is in this frame, though, and, I'll give you a hint. It just flew away. Yeah, bees. Bees are my problem, or, more succinctly, that I still have a giant hole in the part of the base that I've built so far. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, because, and the only reason I knew about this, is that during today's vault run, today is October 8th, by the way, when I went to go get some sugarcane, I went all the way to this sort of swampy biome that's over in that direction. And, yeah, I kind of realized that most of my bees had started drifting off in that direction, and I didn't really think anything of it until I came back here, and I actually checked all of the, you know, the beehives and the stuff down in the apiary, basically. And, yeah, it turns out that I only had one bee left, so I frantically went back, and I rounded up as many bees as I possibly could have, and I brought them all back here, but the problem is, they still continue to leak, and they still continue to drift over that way. Now, I have a theory about why that happens. If you've seen Doc M77's Season 9 of Hermitcraft, you'll know that he summoned the Ender Dragon to the overworld. Now, I don't know exactly what trickery he used to keep it in place. It probably has something to do with redstones and suppressing the AI, but I also happen to know that when the dragon was loaded in a very specific way, like people were in Doc's base, or not in Doc's base, but around Doc's base, loading Doc's chunks, like quasi-loading Doc's chunks, that is. So there's like a volume of space where the chunks are actually loaded. It's typically default, I think, a 7x7 grid around the player. But then beyond that, there are some pseudo-loaded chunks, as far as I'm aware. And in those pseudo-loaded chunks, I believe AI gets a little bit funky. So what I'm guessing happened is that the bees, and now there are two of them, the bees started flying out here, and they've detected some of the flowers that are over in this direction, and then I spend a fair amount of time on the server doing other things, and they just sort of drift over to those flowers. And then I go somewhere else, and then that's when the AI starts going wrong, and they start drifting over that way, and I start losing my bees. So today's first thing that I want to work on is patching this hole. Now the thing, like the easy part, I think, is, again, this is going to be a circular staircase up into my actual main house body or whatever. But I think the first thing that I can do that's fairly easy is I'm just going to put in a linear glass wall here with a couple of mimicry doors, just like I have over here. And I don't know if I'm going to have it offset like this, or if I'm going to do like one door on either side of a post kind of thing. But that is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put in a wall here, and then, if you can picture this with me, we'll have like sort of a cylinder of, you know, log cabin going up in this direction. And so right on this axis, or this sort of demarcation here, or whatever you want to call it, this is where the sphere, or not the sphere, the cylinder comes out to if we were to plot it all the way. And I want it to join up with the framework that we have here for the, you know, the rest of the, I believe this is going to be the aviary, if, you know, I ever actually get parrots or other birds up in here. I think there are only parrots in this mod pack, though. Chickens don't count, they get a coop downstairs, so that's, you know, beside the point. But I need to experiment a little bit, but after the jump, theoretically, I will have built up some of this area, and this will all be sealed in, the bees won't be able to get out, and then I won't need to worry about them escaping, and I'll be able to breed them up until I have enough bees to fill up my little apiary down below. Okay, I figured it was a bit of a time for a progress check-in, and as you can see, I have actually, you know, sort of sealed in the top of this build. And I also had a couple of different things go through my mind while I was doing this. One, I realized that this top zone is kind of too small to make like a proper aviary, I think. So instead, this is going to be more of like an exotic plants terrarium / greenhouse kind of thing. So I'm probably going to try to put like, I don't know, maybe botania, maybe some cactus. I might even try putting some botany pots up in here. the majority of those are still going to be in the storage room. I haven't even unlocked botany pots yet, so this is just like a big jump into the future. But it's also very important to note that there is a reason we do iterative design. And before I do that, let me just also show you what I did down here to seal in some stuff. Now, in this section here, we're going to make it similar to the foundation with the black stone, the vault stone, and the deep slate that we have going on here. So this section where you've got dirt on the same, I don't know if this is X or Z, but on the same plane as this or whatever, you know, just extend this way, all the dirt that's visible is going to get replaced, all the snow that's visible is as well, and then we're just going to put this in. It's a little bit of a hack to save on resources, using the terrain to hide stuff, more or less, and I'm even doing that here. But I filled this in with just a mixture of tough cobble, gravel, smooth stone, and andesite. And then, of course, we had the roof from last time, and that's perfectly fine. Now let's move on to how I sort of patched the hole here. And keep in mind that, once again, this is supposed to be like the bridge? It's not exactly a bridge. The staircase? Yeah, I really don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it's going to be like a staircase slash tower? It's not really going to be a tower. I mean, it's going to go just a little bit further up, and then we're going to have like a roof covering. And you'll see, we're going to do some really cool stuff, I would like to think. But I built this out, and you can see we're kind of in a midway state. So originally this was a lot more boxy. I had almost like, what is it? 7x7 spruce rectangle or whatever, a rectangular prism. And then we had, you know, just a whole bunch of logs. I've elected to go with jungle and oak for my house because, again, the whole being the ice wolf liege or whatever, that shifted my design sense. I am going to make my roofing mostly blues, probably light blues, maybe even some whites, just get those really icy tones, and potentially even use ice in the build. I'm not sure yet, but because we're going to go with blues, I figured making it with the redder woods, as we'd seen down in the trolley garage, or what did I end up calling it? Trolley depot, there we go. The trolley depot has the more reddish woods, and I thought that that would look kind of weird with, you know, the lighter blues. So we are opting to go with jungle and oak for the planks on our log cabin. And another thing is, I don't even know if this is like a valid design choice, but I figured since this is a vertical stairwell, then we're going to make our logs run vertically, and we're going to have these sort of round support braces, almost kind of like if you were making this a big log barrel, more or less. And so I want, you know, a circular staircase in the middle, and by the time I realized that, oh yeah, I've made a rectangular prism, and I started making my adjustments, and I made this a proper circle, then I realized, oh, the inside for this, where I'm putting my spiral staircase, it now feels kind of cramped. And so what I think I'm going to do is right now, if we take just the oak and jungle logs, and we treat that as our circle of reference, more or less. This is a circle of 7 diameter. I think I want to expand it to a circle of 9 diameter, and then rework how the spruce supports are all around this. And then probably that means that this is going to come a little bit into our greenhouse section. I'm going to put in another support down below there, just so it makes structural sense, I think. And then, like I said, we're just going to rework all of the spruce. I'm potentially going to use dark oak for this section where it starts to cut into the framework of the dome that we have here. But I think that's going to look just a little bit better going with the larger circle to begin with, and then making the spruce supports on the exterior just a little bit bigger to fit that larger circle as well. I think that's going to look better because right now this looks, you know, very small in comparison to this dome, and one larger is probably going to help it. I would like to think it's going to help it, but I kind of just need to test that out, and hopefully I'll have that done by the next clip, and we can figure out what we're going to do from there. Okay, once more a progress point, and let's just sort of take the build in as it is. I think it's coming along very nicely, actually surprisingly more nicely than I would have expected. There's still some stuff that I have to do on the interior, and we'll talk about that as we get to it, but let's take a look at what I did for the staircase here. So, like I said, I expanded it out to a 9 circle, at least I believe that this should be correct for that now. And then I sort of just did an extra ring for the spruce supports, like I said, and then we also added some vertical supportage in here because I figured that if we're doing sort of bracing rings at various Y levels or whatever, and we're also making them out of logs, those are going to need support too. So I basically just went super support heavy, and I think that honestly makes it look just so much better if we just take a look from here. Now, one thing that I have to decide on is how I want this to connect up to the rest of the main base slash house. If I just turn my HUD back on, you can see that we've got the mineshaft center right about here, and I'm going to put a windmill in this general direction as part of my house. And so I'm probably going to keep the shaft concentric with the mineshaft, and then probably just work it down there with a couple of gearboxes. That's the word I'm looking for. And so we'll have like sort of a circular thing here, and it'll just go up to maybe about here. We kind of want to bear in mind the sort of level of the mountains, but at the same time, we're in the middle of a lake here, so I'm still expecting that we're going to get some wind even at, you know, just a reasonable Y level, at least I hope. And we're playing this for quasi-realism, like I said. So we're going to have a windmill there. We're going to have a bridge, or not exactly a bridge, but sort of like a path from here to like the actual body of the house slash windmill. And so I need to decide if I want this to be like almost bridge-like, kind of just add a couple of support structures in and just not even fill in underneath here, or if I want to try and do some terraforming and also put in like some foundation layer, kind of like what we have down here. Just, do I want to make that part of the underbridge structure, the walkway thing that I've got planned in my head, or do I just bridge across? And we're still going to have this foundation as part of the terraforming, but I won't have to do nearly as much if I do the bridge effect. And well, that's just, I need to play with it, but I'm just so pleased with how we managed to get this to turn out so far, and also that the bees are staying in. That was the primary objective, and now the primary objective is done, and I need to pick a new primary objective. And so that's either going to be work on the house from here, or put in like one of the automation things that I was thinking about, or possibly even declutter the island. We have a lot of animals here, and I'm going to be able to put some of them in pens, but the rest of them, well, the rest of them are going to the farm, I think. Hi, editing agent here. Yeah, so I realize this sounds very insidious, and that was kind of the intention. It was supposed to be dark humor, but on the other hand, I may legitimately send them to the farm, because if you remember, the village, up at the top of the village, I'm planning on having sort of an agricultural section, and so I may just legitimately cart the remaining animals from my base up into that section of the village. So, I just wanted to assure my viewers that I may not actually be, well, I may not be doing sinister things to all of the animals on my island. Let's just put it that way. Now, this is the last little building update before I get into some grindy stuff off camera. I have added the wood across, you know, the three sort of more circular parts of this build. And on the one hand, while I do think that the glass, you know, the extra support theoretically makes sense from a structural perspective, I'm actually not feeling it that much from a building aesthetic perspective, and I'm genuinely not sure why that is, or if I should revert it, so let me know down in the comments what you think. I might just need to sleep on this as well, but maybe I'll try to do a little bit of a before and after kind of thing if I can. So here is roughly before, and here is roughly after, and just let me know what you think. And now I'm going to have to go mine a whole heck ton of chromatic iron, because I think I've run out of it. I think I've run out of the massive amounts that I had, and I kind of need it for both Cagerium and Create and all of the other stuff that I'm working on, so I'm just going to go do that off camera and hopefully have some more other varied stuff that we can take a look at after the jump. Alrighty, so unfortunately I didn't quite get to what I wanted to do, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but as a result of some ore mining, I did manage to make a Schematicannon, and that means that we have a bunch of opportunities here. That means that I can start building things in creative mode, and then as long as I have the materials in the single-player world, or, you know, the survival series, that's what I mean, then I can just use this to basically blast it into existence. That also means that I can clear out some of this bedrock, theoretically, and just flatten this area out a little bit, you know, just kind of get that nice clean circle underneath here that I was talking about, potentially. I'm still kind of two minds of that, but on the other hand, it would be very nice to be able to clear the area under the elevator just a little bit, and I only want to go down, potentially out to here, but I'm on the fence. I still need to, you know, prepare to do all of the good stuff over here, and I guess that's part of the thing that I can start to build out now that I have the Schematicannon. I'll basically just copy this world, edit the flag that says that it's creative or not, and then I'll use that as my I can build in advance, and then Schematicannon and paste stuff in. Especially because I have a really cool plan for this vault gateway, and, well, it's gonna need a lot of testing. A lot of testing. So that's mostly it. Yes, I got a whole bunch of chromatic iron and almost enough chromatic steel to be able to put together another mob cage. I think my next priority for hostile mobs is zombies. Hostile-wise, I think it's the zombie and Enderman egg. I don't know if glow squid technically counts as hostile, or polar bear for that matter, but the zombie is the most important. We have a whole bunch of non-hostile eggs now as well, and we're going to get to those eventually, but I'm just saving this chromatic steel specifically for the hostile cage, because we really need to get the zombies cranking. You'll also see I started creating some modifiers for this second double pouch, and what I would love to be able to do is split ores and other things that, like, I know I'm going to need a whole lot of into one of the pouches, and then split all of the other vault resources that I just get a ton of and don't really necessarily need, especially the decorative stuff. Then I'll probably end up putting that into another pouch, and then basically just you know, treating them as different filters for things that I can get in the vault. And I think it's going to be really helpful. So I think that's mostly everything. One last thing is that I did some reading. Nucleus doesn't actually use your Nova subskill. It just casts Nova. That's it. So it doesn't actually cast Frost Nova like I thought it did. At least insofar as I'm aware. I don't think I saw any explosions happening, so maybe that's been adjusted. I admittedly did just check a Reddit thread, and it pretty much seemed to indicate, no, it's just base Nova. So at that point in time, I decided, well, okay, if having points in Frost Nova doesn't matter whatsoever, then I'm going to get rid of Frost Nova, so you can see that we have done that. And then I'm also going to get rid of Nucleus, and then I'm going to put some points into Daze, over time. So I put a point into Daze just so we can get that going, which increases our damage to stun mobs. I think that's going to be a lot nicer for vault runs. Then we also have Frostbite. I increased that to 5th level so that we've got 1/8 of a chance to glacially imprison mobs. And that's really going to help out with our crowd control, I'd like to think, just increasing that chance. We also put another point into sorcery, yes, and that means that our mana is going to regenerate much faster at full health, which I intend to be at full health more often, because I'm pretty sure I also increased my ice armor a little bit here, maybe? I think that's the case. And I'm trying to remember if I increased anything else. I originally think I increased Shell by a level, But I unlearned that because I realized, no, if I'm just doing stun chance for days, then it's not like I need it for nucleus proc or whatever. We are still going to raise that because I think having the higher stun chance plus days is going to be really nice, but it's not going to synergize in quite the same way as when I thought that nucleus could proc Frost Nova. And that's pretty much it as far as vault stuff goes. We are about to hit level 55, especially because I ate a couple of burgers off camera. And when that happens, we are definitely getting Infuser 3, because if we take a look at tomorrow's crystal, we have 2 negative modifiers. And that basically means it didn't trigger whatsoever. And I jokingly said that, you know, in video games, if it's less than 50%, it's 0%. And if it's more than 50%, it's, well, okay, closer to 75% or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers I used, but the point is, because I applied 2 living catalysts to tomorrow's crystal, we got 2 negative modifiers, and that's kind of whatever. And then finally, if I just go upstairs real quick, this has honestly kind of been growing on me. I feel like I might need to do a little bit more shaping with the glass in here, because this ends up looking just a little more concave than I expected, and it's supposed to be more convex. So I think what I might do is pop out just a couple of glass pane, or not panes. I'll probably end up extending the glass out here, here, and potentially here as well, and then just filling in the stair corner here maybe. Not entirely sure about that, still on the fence. But honestly, I think this is looking a little bit better with the support across. I still want to know your feedback in the comments below because, well, I consider myself an okay builder. I can always learn, and I think, you know, just having that extra bit of feedback would be delightful. And I think that is going to do it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Build Phase. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified. And as always, I'm looking forward to your feedback in the comments below. And with that, I will catch you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, everybody.